Waiting for everyone to join, but hey everyone, welcome to another Hobby Night School class. We're super excited to have you here. We are excited to have Sara Layton from Layton Sports Cards joining us tonight, and we're going to have a nice conversation.
Look at that, first in line. I like the punctuality. That's awesome.
We're going to have an awesome discussion about, generally being in an industry where you didn't start out, where it's a hobby industry and you didn't start out in that hobby, and also navigating it as a woman, because frankly that's a big deal, and she is doing it awesome, and we're excited to hear her story.
That is true. Good evening.
Hello everyone.
What's going on? Cousins Collectibles, ETP_94, what's good?
Osmond, Mrs. Squirts.
Oh man,
I forgot to message you. I'm glad you're on here. I hope you're feeling better.
it's truly the who's of the women in the hobby right now.
I know. We have all the ladies.
Ms. Layton, Ms. Squirts, Miss Reckless.
So
I'll go get my shine box and just shut up.
You're alive. Yeah, Sarah's been sick. It's a lot of Sarahs.
Yep.
Sarahs. I like it.
Yep.
So once Sara Layton is ready to join us, we'll get this party started. How's everyone doing? Sports card collector, hello. Everyone good? Everyone get any good mail days today?
There we go.
Here we go.
Thanks, cousins.
Thanks.
I appreciate that.
Appreciate it.
You should see the one I do with my girlfriend.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, hi, how are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm excellent.
Spectacular. Thank you for joining us.
Of course.
On the day when Flawless is released, I'd probably much rather be looking at cards than dealing with us, so we appreciate you taking a couple minutes to jump in.
This was our non-business busiest day we've had, not even with the business. So I haven't even seen any of Flawless, to be perfectly honest with you. It's 9:00 at night and I haven't seen a single card.
Oh,
I think that's a good problem, right?
yeah. You're just like,
Yeah.
because if we had Flawless here, I'd be like, yeah, no, sorry, don't talk to me, don't call. We're just.
Yep. How to burn money real fast.
Do I rip this? Yes, I do.
So I'm going to let Courtney drive a lot of the conversation tonight, but I heard your origin story on a different pod, and I thought it was absolutely phenomenal. I found it to be very inspirational. I also
brave, very brave.
I'll let you talk a little bit, Courtney. Just give me my 2 minutes in before I get completely shot out. But I was raised in a house full of women. I've got my lovely wife. I've got 3 daughters. And so I see firsthand on a daily basis how females are treated differently within this space. And so having that perspective, listening to your origin story, I found it to be that much more courageous. And so before we even get started, I just want to say from, just a co-hobbyist and somebody who appreciates what you ladies do, congratulations on all of your much earned success. And I hope more people hear it and understand. And I'm really excited to hear some of the stuff that you guys talk about tonight, because Courtney will kick me underneath the table a million times to shut up. So there you go. It's all yours. I got my little piece out. I didn't say anything too dumb. We're good.
Okay, so Sara, let's start with you. I have heard you often say that you're pretty new to collecting. You've been in the industry for a long time, but you bought your first card in what, like 2020 or something?
I think so. 2019 or 2020. I had always looked at this hobby as a business. I didn't collect as a child. My father collected, and his whole thing was like, we're collecting together, but I wasn't allowed to touch anything. So it wasn't fun for me, and I never really got into it. So when we started Layton Sports Cards, I still approached it that same way. I liked opening product early on. It's fun, right? Opening boxes of cards. And I was like, okay, I have these cards here. Do what you have to do with them. And whether we put them in our shop or we sold them or whatever it was that we did, I never kept anything until we were opening, oh God, I have it here because I was trying to prepare myself. What year was this? 2020 Topps Diamond Icons. We were opening a case of cards, doing a break. And we pulled a Harry Kalas cut auto, which doesn't have a ton of value, but I grew up a Phillies fan, and I grew up with my grandparents listening. They listened to the Phillies game on the radio, which Harry Kalas called it, and they would sit at the kitchen table and play cards while the game was on the radio, and I was there. And I saw that Harry Kalas cut auto, and I said to my husband, I was like, I don't know who got that card. You need to get that card for me. And that was my first card. I had to have it, and I'm pretty sure he overpaid for it, and that's how I started collecting in 2020.
That's like
Hey, it made you smile and made you happy. Therefore, he did not overpay.
No.
That's true. But that's
Also,
you know, I didn't before that. I didn't really get into collecting. You know, it wasn't my thing.
Yeah, I completely understand that. So why don't you tell everyone how you did get into the hobby? Like, what started Layton Sports Cards? Because you guys are a team, even though it seems more like maybe a lot of people don't realize that you guys are teammates in this sometimes.
Right. I'm so behind the scenes, people don't always even recognize me at shows, which has been totally fine. But we started our business, Layton Sports Cards, started in 2012. Before that, I had gone to lunch with a coworker. I've always worked in healthcare, doing medical billing. We went to lunch, and my coworker said, do you mind if I go across the street? There was a hobby shop. I want to buy some packs of cards for my boyfriend. I was like, oh, cool. My husband used to collect. I'll go with you. I want to see what there is. So we went in, I bought like 2 packs of Series 2. I think it was 2011. I'm not sure the year at this point. But, and then me not knowing, I got in the car. We were driving back to the office, and I opened the pack of cards, and then I called my husband. I said, hey, Rich, I bought you some packs of cards. Do you want to know what you got? He's like, excuse me? I said, do you want to know what cards you got? And he's like, you opened my packs? I was like, yeah, I did. Do you want to know what you got? And he was like, no, why would you do that? And he was like so confused, which looking back now, it's kind of funny because we literally opened cards for other people. But when I got done work that day, I went back and I bought him a box of cards and brought it home, and we opened it together. And he started looking into it because he had been out of the hobby for a while. He started looking into collecting, saw the cards on eBay, and it was all different from when he was a kid, and saw group breaking. It was so brand new. There was just a handful of people who did it, and here we are.
Now, when you guys opened that box, did he let you touch the cards?
Yes, yeah. And I can actually tell you that my first hit that I pulled was a Freddie Freeman. I've actually got a box of, I think it was Allen and Ginter, the one that has the minis. I had a mini auto of Freddie Freeman. So I'll never forget that. But that was my first hit that I actually pulled myself.
Isn't it funny? You will never forget the first one that the first really big card that I ever pulled out of a box, because I collected when I was a kid, but I often talk about my Singletary scorecard. That's my favorite card, that's worth maybe $1, but I love that card because I pulled it out of a pack myself when I was a kid. And I love the Bears, so it was a cool card. But I pulled a Kobe Contenders on card auto out of a hobby box of Contenders in 2018, and I had no idea. I knew Kobe was good, but I wasn't wow, this is a big card, because I didn't like Kobe. I grew up a Jordan fan, so I was like, I'm Kobe Bryant.
Right.
Right. It's so crazy to look back. And then this other time I pulled 4 Erling Haalands out of one box, and everybody was freaking out. I'm like, oh my God. So you never forget that. So when you first started, like we were talking about.
No. Hold on, Court. You're good. It's 2012. You pulled the Freddie Freeman mini. You've got the autograph. Rich let you touch the cards, which is pivotal in Layton sports history, because had Rich not let you touch the cards, maybe there's none of this.
Yeah,
that's right. So he was actually delivering pizzas for Domino's, and before that he worked in construction, and of course there was the market crashed, and there wasn't a lot of construction work for him anymore. So he ended up working at Domino's, and they gave him a t-shirt that said 5 years of service. And he was like, what am I doing with my life? I've been working at Domino's for 5 years. And he quit. And he's like, I can't do this anymore. So, you know, we talked, and he's like, I think I can do this. I see breaking and I see people doing it, and I think I could add to the hobby. And I said, okay. I was actually switching jobs. I used to work for an eye doctor, and then I moved over to the hospital. So I cashed out my 401k, paid off all of our bills, and I could carry our home bills with my paycheck. And I was like, let's see where it goes. And
The rest is history. That was a huge leap of faith. That was a huge leap of faith. Yeah. So when you first started, can you talk about a few times you were like, oh my God, did we make the wrong choice? Were there any moments like that, or was it always just smooth sailing?
You know, at first it took off very well, and we were busy. We started from our apartment. There's a lot of jokes sometimes from a lot of like our vets who come around the kitchen table breaks, because we would just break from our house. And then we got to a point, it was about 3 months in. We started in September 2012. December 2012, we actually got a shop and opened up a shop in New Jersey. And so we grew rather quickly, and it was, you know, we're moving and we're going and we're going, and it's great. But there was a time where, I mean, you would get your products from the distributors, and it was on the market for less than you paid for it. So during that time, we were like eating a lot of ramen and trying to figure out how we were going to make it. It's very different then than it is now, where, you know, stuff goes up. The majority of the stuff goes up. Back then, 2013, 2014 or so, it wasn't always like that, where you would buy a box for $80 and you had to sell it for $60, you know, and we just trucked on. It was tough, but, you know, we made it through. So there was a few times where we were like, what? You know, we just moved into a new shop. You know, if we were doing it from the house, maybe it would have been a little easier, but we had all this new overhead that we didn't have before. So, I mean, it was a big learning experience, because neither one of us have ever run a business before, but we made it through.
Yeah, I think it's important, like, to even touch on that point again, because you see that the market ebbs and flows, and you've been through like several fluctuations where you're buying boxes. Like, I don't even think people can like fathom buying a hobby box of like something good for $80 these days. Like,
right.
So the thought of like a $20 loss, we've bought cases that like have gone hundreds of dollars lower than what we paid for them. So, you know, it's part of, you know, owning a business, is having it happen.
So I'm curious. So you're going through this. Luckily, the market's doing relatively good, but you're navigating a space that you're not familiar with. You're doing it as a female in a predominantly male space. You're also juggling being a first-time business owner.
Right.
So, like, what did you like about it? Like, what were the tasks, the day-to-day things that people wouldn't think about that goes into hobby-related items? And what are some of the things that you did not like?
So when we first started out, the majority of what I did was on the sorting and shipping side. So I was never on camera, because I did not have the patience to really open cards for people and, you know, deal with the chat so much. But I was on the sorting shipping side. So I was really big into the whole organization of everything we did and how everything got sorted and packaged and shipped. I actually, for a long time, I enjoyed that. Now there's a million things I would rather do than sort and ship cards, but at the time I really enjoyed that. I kind of lost track what you were saying. I'm sorry.
So yeah, no, I'm totally understandable. It's like 9 o'clock on a Wednesday. So in the beginning, you liked sorting and shipping. You didn't really want to be on the camera.
Right.
So like, maybe talk a little bit about some of the experiences that were like not great, where you were like, ugh, I wish I would never have to deal with that ever again.
So, I mean, one of the biggest things, and I know it still happens today a little more predominantly, but even back then when we opened our shop, if I was working in the shop, there would be people who didn't want to ask me a question. And I actually still get that today, where, you know, a customer would come in and he would ask a question to my husband, who was actually sitting on the other side of this little half wall breaking. He would, instead of asking me the question, he would ask him, and then I would just answer. And I'm like, I actually know the answer to this question. You know, I mean, it is my name on the sign. but
Oh, that's
so
it's so frustrating. That happens all the we'll be at a card show and I'll be like working out a deal with somebody and he'll like question every single thing that I say. I like to the point of there was this guy who was telling me that a card that I had was like overpriced and I'm like, well, actually that card just sold last night for this comp and we're under that comp and so we're kind of in between. And he like pulled out his phone to like second, guess me and then I was right. And he was like, he goes, oh, good job, honey. And I'm like, oh, now I'm not gonna sell you this card even.
That drives me nuts too.
Like, don't call me honey.
Exactly. I'm like, I'm not sweet. Don't call me honey.
I know,
it's not gonna be pretty.
It's so funny because it is Miss Squirt says she likes smacking people. It happens to women, and that's something that I feel like when I have conversations with other men in the hobby, they don't want to talk about that. They want to like, it's almost like sometimes they want to pretend like that kind of stuff doesn't happen, or if you're having a conversation about it, you're, I don't know, making them uncomfortable. I'm like, I get made uncomfortable like 75 times a day, but like telling you about it is making you uncomfortable.
I see the comments. They're like, I don't understand. The hobby's for everyone. I'm like, well, I mean, look at some of the language that's used on posts and in groups. It's always, hey man, what's up guys? And it's always like, don't be a girl about it, please.
Oh, the misogynistic and like homophobic stuff that goes on and is said.
It's terrible.
We could be saying the same thing, but if they think it's coming from me, the responses we get are completely different. If they think it's coming from her, it's completely, even though the message is the same. And so a majority of the time, Courtney runs all socials with the exception of Twitter. That's why Twitter sucks compared to everything else.
I don't go on Twitter either. It's so toxic.
I hate Twitter. It's so toxic.
Hate
the worst.
Yeah,
it's the worst. If you want to be in a really bad mood, just go on Twitter for like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
She's talking about toxic. She's banned for Facebook for like her 50th time, like on an annual basis. But neither here nor there. It is like completely frustrating to have to sit by because we're like, Courtney is incredibly passionate about this. She takes a lot of time to educate herself. She consumes a lot of content, both of what she likes and doesn't like, to try to understand and gain perspective. And like, I really feel for all the ladies out there that have to deal with that shit because it's so unnecessary. And quite frankly, most of the time we come across, you guys are more qualified, you gals are more qualified than most of the bro dudes you're dealing with. So it's complete and total, like, it's insanity.
Well, it's almost like we have to overcompensate because you have to know exactly what you're asking for and expecting and what's going on. You can't misspeak because if you do it, you're just going to get jumped on. So.
Oh yeah, there's you get no grace at all. There's none. You have to be on your. I was having that conversation with someone the other day, about like when we go live, Jeremy can like put on a t-shirt and a hat and he looks great. Nobody would question him. And when Miss Squirts came out, I was talking about breaking, like to the point of people commenting on if she has her fingernails polished. Like nobody asked Jeremy if he polished his fingernails or why they're not polished, or like, do you have makeup on or do you look nice before you do something? That isn't like, it's not part of it.
Right.
And it is frustrating because like
we have a female breaker and it's the same thing. Some of the comments and emails we get, and I'm like, dude, don't do that. Don't ask that question. I've blocked a few people just based on Instagram messages that they sent. I'm like, I don't want you buying in. You're creeping me out, and I don't want you making my breaker uncomfortable. I will not put my staff in that position.
I've had that happen so many times where it's so uncomfortable. And like when you put yourself out there on social media, the comments that I get on TikTok, I'm like old. I'm almost 40. I have children. And like my children are in TikToks with me, and I still have men saying the most disgusting, degrading things. And I'm like, why? Like, what benefit is there to that? And also, like, some days it's hard. Like, you have days, I have days, maybe you don't, but I would warrant that you do, and I think a lot of women do that are in predominantly male spaces like this, where you have days where you're so sick of it. And you're like, is it even worth it to keep doing this? Because even though I love it, like it's getting ruined for me by people men talking this way and behaving like that.
They say never read the comments. Isn't that what they always say? Never read the comments.
Not reading the comments is self-care.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
So you're taking this business and you're growing it, you're learning, you're enjoying. It sounds like developing systems and processes in the back end. You've got your team break-in, things are taking off, you're learning new things. At what point do you realize, like, hey, there's something more to these cards? Like, I may have an attachment to them, and it might be something that I'm going to pursue as a collectible or as a hobby simultaneously while operating a business.
You know, I mean, it really was just I've always got into the excitement of it and watching our breaks, and watching our customer base get excited, and watching other customers, that people in our chat rooms get excited for, you know, other people as a big pool comes and it's for somebody in the chat and they're like, that's my card. And everyone's like, awesome, that's amazing. You know, so it's hard not to enjoy it when you're watching. And it's just kind of how it happened. That Harry Callis card came out and I was like, I have to have that card. That has to be my card. And that was it, you know, and that's kind of what got me into it. Now, I collect Star Wars, which is going to our child, because I had a thing made by Show Your Slabs for the baby's room. And
So cool.
I'm a huge Sixers fan, so I collect Joel Embiid. You know, like, I collect what I collect to collect. I don't collect to sell. I don't plan on selling any of this. Mike Trout, because he's from South Jersey. We're from South Jersey. I have to collect him, you know. So I have a couple, not much, because he's very expensive. But, you know, I mean, that's it. I mean, you get sucked in. There's no way not to get sucked in with the excitement of everything that's going on.
You can't, especially if you're like, you're talking about the teams you like and being a sports fan. And I think that is a big part of it. Like, for me, I've always been a huge fan of sports and watching sports and going to the games, and like collecting the cards of your players, especially like interesting ones, has like just added another layer of excitement to, you know,
right,
enjoying the game.
Right. Exactly.
How have you handled your like the new stardom or the new notoriety? Because honestly, a couple years ago, I did not know that you were the brains and the brawn and the beauty behind what is Layton Sports Cards. It was just, and forgive me, I don't know his name. There was just some guy, kaboom, like he would like that. And I never knew that you were there. Then all of a sudden you come out and I was like, damn, she's flexing on everybody. She's running things. I look on your Instagram, you guys are on private planes. There's always one-of-ones, cards that people couldn't even fathom having. Like, so how are you dealing with like all the attention that comes with it now?
Overall, I'm fine with it. I mean, even though I've been in this industry for so long, I've only been a collector for a few years. So I feel like sometimes my knowledge on cards isn't as great as other people's who have, you know, so there are times where I see, like with what you guys do, Women of the Hobby, there's so many creators out there. I see them and I'm like, man, they're doing so much great stuff. I want to be, you know, I want to help. I kind of want to help grow that. So, I mean, while, yeah, I've been in the industry for 10 years, I've made relationships with, you know, the people I need to make relationships with at distributors and, you know, manufacturers and things like that. So I wanted to be able to use what I can give to other people, you know, to other creators, especially female creators. So like Ty from the Bullpen and I bought a booth for the National this year. And Ty and I are not even going to be at the National this year. Neither one of us are attending. So we have a booth for that. We haven't fully promoted it yet, but we have a booth for other women in the hobby to use so that they can create content. They can do their interviews. They can do, like, you guys could do hobby night, your hobby night school on Wednesday there. I mean, we're trying to make a space where other people can use it to kind of lift other people up. And that's what I'm really passionate about right now. Not necessarily the attention on me. Like, I don't need the attention. I want everyone else to have the attention. So
that's very like, so like that's awesome. That's so like incredibly impressive and generous of you. And you also teamed up with Topps to give away tickets to the national too, yes?
No, I teamed up with the national. The
The
national had
national
2
stuff.
tickets.
Why did I think it was
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I apologize. I misspoke.
No, it's okay. I had reached out to the national to Megan, who works there, and I said, "Hey, I'm thinking I want to do this. What can I do?" She says, "I'll donate 2 tickets." So then we donated 2 tickets. We had 4. Another person donated tickets, so we had 8 tickets to give away. We actually ended up giving away 9 because one of the women who won goes everywhere with her daughter, and I'm like, "Look, little girls in the hobby, they are the future of what we are, right?" So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to get your daughter a ticket too, so she can also have the VIP experience. Yeah, I mean, and we did it with the Mint too. We were set up at the Mint Collective, and they gave us like a couple extra tickets. And in my Women in Cards group, I had asked them, I said, does anybody need a ticket? And I gave them out then too. So,
That's a great group. I love that group.
Yeah, it's very positive. And if you have a question, you can ask it, and there's multiple people who can answer it for you. There's multiple people in different parts of the industry in that group as well, so that it can, like, if you have a question about grading, you can get an answer. If you have a question about one of the manufacturers, I can tag someone and they can answer. You know what I mean? It's just, it's a nice group to have, and it's nice to be able to ask a question and not get attacked. Because
oh my gosh, my favorite is I can post a question in there and I don't get the like laughing like responses.
Right.
It's just like people genuinely trying to help you answer your question.
Right.
So I think
that's why it's creative.
One thing that we discuss internally and with like our close circle of friends within the hobby is like, how do you enjoy the hobby? Because everybody's hobby experience is a little bit different. Some people like to flip cards, some people like to set build, everybody operates completely differently. And
Right.
one thing I've gravitated towards from not just collecting cards, but I've actually really enjoyed understanding the education. I love the behind the scenes stuff. I love understanding how systems and processes work, or how if you pull a lever over here, what's the action and reaction over there. I would say that with you having the success that your business has, and when you say that you look at other people doing so much more, I would argue that people are looking and feeling the same way about you, and you being visible and sharing these experiences and providing these tickets or spaces at the national. That's incredibly impactful, and you're showing a new generation of young women and boys that there's a different way to participate in the hobby. You don't just have to do it the way 1 or 2 Instagram posts tell you you have to participate.
Right. And I say that all the time when people ask, there's no wrong way to collect. If you want to set build. I don't like set building, but just because I don't like it doesn't mean it's wrong. Some people like only autos. Some people don't like the sticker autos. Some people like game use patch. I mean, if a card has a cool looking patch, I'm gonna like it, whether it's game worn, game player worn, whatever. It looks cool. It looks good, and that's fine. You want to buy to flip it and make a profit? There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, go ahead. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. It's a simple. It's very simple.
It always makes me laugh too, like when people get so like wrapped up in their ways. It's like if all these people weren't collecting their way, there wouldn't be this many people, in the hobby, and all of this would be for nothing, because none of this stuff would be worth anything if everybody wasn't out there doing their own thing.
Right.
So what kind of advice do you have for the people out there that have aspirations of going the opposite way you did, going from business to hobby? What would you say for somebody that's a hobbyist that wants to try to make a run at this and make a career, or make a side business out of this? What advice can you share?
I would say start with the products that you know and love, so that you are educated in what you're talking about. Whether you want to break, or you want to set up a card shows, or you want to open up a shop, know what you have and know what you're doing. I mean, I don't know anything about soccer. Like, I would not have known Erling Haaland was worth anything either. I would have been like, oh, this guy, I can't say his name right, But so
I get shit on all the time when we end up opening something and I don't know the sport very well, and I'm like saying like the wrong name.
Everybody doesn't know every sport, but I think if you're authentic to yourself and people can see that you love what you're doing, then it's going to show, and people are going to enjoy that. You have to love it. If you don't love it, there's no point.
Also, I would like anyone to rip UFC cards and be able to say every person's name like perfectly, because some of those names are so hard.
You're not wrong.
I can't even watch it. UFC is so violent. It's one of those things that my husband will turn it on and I'm like, this is terrible. And he's like, you listen to crime podcasts all day long. I don't understand, but you can't watch UFC. I'm like, no, I cannot watch this. It's too violent.
I like both, so I like, maybe I'm really messed up. I will listen to like the worst. I love Morbid podcast. I shout out to Morbid podcast. Maybe those girls will hear this and be like, oh, cool.
I actually just today I was driving back from an appointment, and I am very late on the game for Crime Junkie, and I'm caught up.
Are you?
I'm like, I don't have anything left to listen to.
See, but that's so funny, because that's like, I collect like murder and crime related sports cards. Like, I have the Menendez brothers cards, like, you know, OJ Simpson. I am like right now looking for this like with Mongo McMichaels, because his wife was married to a murderer, and so now I want that card, because it's like my like macabre card collection. And that's
awesome.
It's so weird. And it's like very like, but that's it. You get into these like weird, like we had Yamwax on last week, and he was talking about all of these crazy cards that I'd never heard of. Like Dolly Parton has a rookie card, which by the way I've like actively been hunting down now.
Oh,
and
I didn't know that.
It's like, it doesn't always have to be sports too. And I think that's something that's drawing more women into the hobby as well, is like, you can buy Stranger Things cards, and who doesn't want Stranger Things cards? You know, like, give me a Billy card. I'll just like, hey Billy, what's up?
I open The Mandalorian every year, and actually one year I think I opened 2 cases of it myself. And for that year, for Christmas, everybody got Christmas cookies and Mandalorian tins, because they come in the tins.
Yes. That's so cool. And that's part of it, I think, that people forget, is that it's supposed to be fun. And when you're in it, like where you're in, you know, you've gotten to a point where I'm sure at first it was business. So you had to, it was like business. And now you guys have set up to a point where it can be fun, and you can have fun and get your Mandalorian tins for everything. You know, you did talk briefly about your Women in Cards group, and I would like to talk a little bit more about that, because if people aren't aware that it exists on Facebook, and like sort of what the catalyst was behind it and how you started it, I would love for you to talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So in 2019 at the National, Ty from the bullpen. She walked up to me and she said, look, I want to start this group on Facebook. Do you want to help, mod it? Suze is also one of the moderators. So it was like really the 3 of us. I can't take the full credit. I just sometimes get real ADD, and then I like hyper focus, and I'm like only focused on that. So it kind of seems like I'm the only one, but there's 3 of us. It's not just me. But we started for, just like I said, we wanted a place where people could ask questions and where they wouldn't feel attacked, and they just show their collection. I mean, nothing in there. Every once in a while there'll be a post, and it's like all the stuff that we've all been like got bashed about, or this guy said that and that. But overall, it's not like that. It's just a group, and they show the collection, or they share links to stories about female athletes. And I've never had to ban anybody. I've never had to block anybody. I've never had to remove comments, and that's amazing. I mean, we have a Layton Sports Cards community group as well for our customers. I mean, I removed somebody today. It's like, it's just so nice that there's this group out there of women who are very supportive of each other, and it's exactly what we wanted, and we got. At the 2021 National, we had, I think it was like 106 members, and then we're up to 335. So, we did push a lot at the last National for the group to try to get it to grow.
I thought about it was at the last National.
Mm-hmm. We had bags made, I mean, little flyers, and we handed it out. So
if you guys like, I saw the pictures getting posted on Instagram of like you guys meeting up, and I'm like, what is this and how come I had never heard of it? And so I went actively looking to find what it was and how come I hadn't heard about it, and I was super excited when I got to be part of the group. So
Awesome.
I
I
think
mean, it's so great.
I think it's incredible that you did that. And whether it has an impact on one person or the 300 plus members you have now, I would imagine for a majority of those people, it feels like a safe space for them where they can ask honest questions and not have to worry about the kind of feedback they're going to get. And that was
Right.
really what inspired us to create the Hobby Night School. Was we're always trying to be approachable. We want to give back. We want to share as much as we can. And some of the times we'll do something that goes against the grain just to prove it out. But we have, a little bit of disposable income where we can afford to make that mistake. But we just want to be transparent so people can make their own informed decision. But with Hobby Night School, people are always asking us questions. So let's create an environment where no matter what the topic is, no matter what the question is, we're going to help build people up and grow the pie, as opposed to souring somebody's experience where they're going to leave, take their money, take their ball, go home, and make it a miserable spot. So,
Right.
again, incredible what you're doing. And you went from 100 to 300 in 1 year. I wouldn't be surprised if we're at 4 and 5 figures within the next, 12 to 24 months.
I hope so. And I hope with our presence at the National this year that we achieve those numbers. It would be really awesome.
Do you think the growth in the group reflects the growth of women in the hobby, or do you think that women are here, they just are unaware that there are spaces for just them?
I think it's a little bit of both. When I did the VIP ticket giveaway, I had added a little questionnaire with it, just trying to get an idea of who wanted to attend, who was applying to attend. And most of the answers about how long people were in the hobby was just since 2020. So I think it's a new growth that we're seeing around women. And another question that I had asked was, why do you want to go to the show? And I left it open-ended. And there was only like 2 or 3 that were like, oh, well, my husband or my partner's going, so I'm going to go tag along. Like everyone else, and there was, I think, 56 people who applied for it. Everyone else wanted to go because they are collectors. And they wanted to meet other women, and they wanted to have that experience. It's easier for us to be online than it is for us to be at some of these shows. And the Instagram account, Women on Pops, her name is Anne-Marie, and her and I were having a conversation. She's great. So she actually, in a conversation, she says, it's the same thing. It's like, well, if you go to a sports bar to watch the game, it's mostly men. It doesn't mean that women don't watch the game. It just means that they're not comfortable to watch it at that sports bar. And I want to make the National not that. I want to make the National comfortable, and other card shows comfortable for women to attend where they feel safe. But when you're like I'm going to say like 10% of the hobby is women. That's a very big difference in numbers. And I think as we all kind of come together and we have our Women in the Hobby night and we have our little gatherings and things like that, I think it's just going to build strength, and it's going to just grow us in even more, because like you said, you saw the pictures and you're like, hey, wait a second.
Yeah. I genuinely felt like I was missing out on something. I'm like, oh, I want to do that. Like, look at these women, like having a blast together. And, my hobby experience is often surrounded by men. I don't have any friends that are women that live close to me that collect. My female friends that are in the hobby, all I've met online and through, Women in Cards and Women in the Hobby, and just, being on Instagram and putting myself out there. So when we go to card shows out here, and when we like get together to rip cards, it's me and like a bunch of guys, which is fine because whatever. But it is nice to have a space where I can enjoy something that I enjoy with other women.
Right. And a lot of the industry related conferences and stuff that we would go to, I was always the only woman there. And I would just hang out with the guys. We would go out, because the industry summits in Las Vegas every year, always out with the guys. And I'm just like, this is, no offense. We always hang out with, they're our friends, but sometimes sometimes I need some women to be around. But
Yes.
a lot of my closest friends that I have now are that I have met through this hobby. Most of my friends that I am close to, that I talk to on a weekly basis, I met because of cards.
I'm totally down for more women at card shows, because just in one thing, automatically it's going to smell a hell of a lot better.
Jesus.
That's it. That's it.
That's it.
Yeah, because at least women like have hygiene. You know what I mean? Like, the National was brutal. My favorite part about the National was leaving the National and going to like trade night, but actually walking the show with people who were just like, yeah, I'm not going to bathe for 3 or 4 days. It won't fly with the ladies.
It cracks me up too, because if you watch like almost any like prep or like what you should do before you go to the National, all of them are like, make sure you bring deodorant, make sure you shower. Like, these guys are putting out podcasts telling other guys to bathe. It makes me
like as if anything else in their life they were not going to bring deodorants. Like, all right, fellas, this is that special time.
Some people need to be reminded. Did you guys go to the Mint Collective?
We
No.
were going to, but it got rescheduled, and
Right.
we do Ship Shawana. It's a show by us, and it's like,
Okay.
we never miss it. It's like our favorite show, and it was the same weekend, so we didn't want to bail.
So that show was set up by mainly women, and you could tell.
Yeah, that's what I heard by everyone, that it was the cleanest, nicest, like most fancy.
But it was modernized too. It wasn't like in a dusty ass
very
BFW.
nice.
Yeah. So if they throw it again next year, which is what I'm hoping, we will 1000% be going. I will not miss it.
I believe the plan is to have it in different locations. So I believe it's going to be every year, and they're going to move it around.
No, that's like the National.
Don't quote me. Don't
I
quote me
won't.
on that. But
I won't quote you.
That's
I'm
breaking
gonna be like,
news.
Sara Layton said.
I just said it on the internet, so it has to be true.
It's true. It's happening. It's next year. I heard it's going to be in Detroit next year from Sara. So.
I already tweeted it.
I heard Indiana. That's what I heard. But I think it's going to be in California than Indiana. So
I don't care.
I'm going to get a message like, why did you say something you're not supposed to say? There you go. There is a Mint 2023. There's Ty.
Mint 2023.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yes, we're very excited.
So, what, in your opinion, and as somebody who's been in here a decade plus, what does the hobby need to continue to grow? And I want to, outside of like, we can deal without the racism, the sexism, like the homophobia, like
that society needs that.
Yeah. What is a community? What can we actively do on a daily basis to help grow this thing, to make it a more positive, enjoyable experience?
Well, I think you guys are doing it. You have your kids involved, and I think that's really what's going to bring it, to keep it going. Because they're just going to get older and they're going to start buying. We have always tried to be a family-friendly environment. That's always been our thing. We don't swear in our chat rooms. We swear off camera all the time. So, I mean, I'm not against swearing, but we try to keep it so that if you're watching it with your kids, they're not going to hear something that's off color and that you have to explain later, that you don't want to explain yet to your child or to whoever. And same thing with, all different walks of life. We try to stay very neutral on a lot of things. And I think by doing that, you're making it more welcoming to everybody. And I think that's what's really important to grow the hobby, is that you can't be closed. Like this is exactly what you said besides, but you can't, if you want to grow it, you have to welcome everybody.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like sometimes I feel like it seems so obvious, like you can't be sexist, you can't be racist, you have to make space for children, you have to be more open-minded if you want more people involved. And I think like that's hard for some people. It really is, because they've been in this for 30-40 years. It's always been the same people doing the same thing the same way, and it's going to take a little bit of maybe progress and change for the hobby to grow and include more people. It just has to be more inclusive,
Right. And it's really why I had been pushing so much for this year's national, for us to be present. You know, I mean, I was able to get an hour on the main stage for, I'm not sure who's going to be up there, but I'm not there. So I have to figure out who's going to do that. But you know what I mean? Just to try to make sure that people know that we exist, you know?
Yeah.
That's all you can do.
It's so cool that you're doing all of that too. Like, you're using your influence. So often people have these big influential accounts and these big influential, you know, what they say people like listen to and hang on every word. And here you are using your influence as a big name in the hobby to make it a better place for everyone. And I think that is something that should be like applauded, like
Thank you.
a million times, because you don't, I mean, in all fairness, you don't have to do this. You don't have to be out there doing all of what you're doing. It's coming from a place of genuinely caring for this industry and seeing it grow. And I think that's so cool.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
But now you've been anointed as the lady, one of the ladies that's going to help lead the charge into the next, you know, whether it's inning, chapter, phase of the hobby.
Oh,
the crown is heavy. Yes, it is. Now you have an obligation to not only the ladies, but the young boys or the men who want to listen. Congratulations on the shop. Awesome.
Thank you.
Looking.
Thank you.
What is next for Layton Sports Cards? What would you like to see for the business that blood, sweat, tears, dealing with all the bozos? What's next?
So we've grown out of our space, believe it or not.
I can't believe it.
I cringe every time I think about it, but we started Layton Gaming in September, and so our shop right now is half sports cards, half our gaming shop. And what we want to do is get gaming into its own space. And we have these really amazing ideas for a gaming shop, you know, like for Pokemon and Magic and board games and all that kind of stuff. Warhammer, all that. But right now, our issue is trying to find a spot to create that.
Yeah.
So that's what I think you're going to see next from us is Layton Gaming is going to be.
Your TikTok for Layton Gaming is fun too. I follow you guys. It's great.
Oh,
So
yeah.
follow their TikTok on that because it's such a good follow.
Yeah.
So
Caleb's our main Layton Gaming breaker, and he has so much knowledge. And I listen to him. And I don't know anything about it. I mean, Pokemon's been around for I think 25 years. 25 years ago, I was working, you know, so I didn't have time for that kind of stuff. So I don't know anything about it, but it's just amazing how big it is. It's one of those things that I didn't understand it, and it's massive.
In a perfect day, you wake up, the sun is shining, your coffee's perfect, or whatever you drink in the morning. You head into the shop, and you can choose to do whatever it is that tickles your fancy. What do you gravitate towards these days? It used to be shipping and organizing the cards, which I'm in agreement. There's a million things I'd rather do than do that anymore.
Yeah,
it was fun designing the process. Now the kids can do it.
Yeah.
What does Sara Layton like to do if she can do anything? Are you watching them? Are you ripping wax? Are you reorganizing the shelves? What is it that you enjoy?
I like to be in the shop now, and I always tell when people come in and I'm working there, and I don't work in there often. I think I'm very much kind of like the HR person and handle other stuff, behind the scenes stuff. But when I work in the shop, I enjoy it so much. And every time somebody comes in, I'm like, hi, let me know what you need. I'm a little slow at using our POS system and getting pricing, but I'll find it for you, you know. But that's my favorite. I love seeing the people who come in and talking to them. And even when if a father comes in with a child, kind of like just talking to the child and trying to get them to open up and see what they like. Just stuff like that. I mean, that's what I like to do. I like to interact with people. Even at the National, when we're at the National, I like to be the one who's talking to all of our customers that'll come up to us at the National. That's my favorite part. It's just meeting the people.
How crazy is that 10 years ago? You're like, hey, we're going to buy some wax. We're going to get in front of a camera, open it up to, I bet you never thought the discussions was going to be like, hey, in 10 years, who's going to manage HR?
That's so
right. No, for real. I had no idea. I mean, I used to do the payroll by hand. You know, they would fill out a paper for their hours, and then I would figure out their hours and have them paid. And then all of a sudden, I was like, this is taking me 3.5 hours to do payroll, because I mean, right now we have 24 employees. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. We need to get with the time. So we actually have like a whole HR app, and they clock it in and out on the app, and it's insane. I never thought. We have health insurance, we have vacation days, we have all this stuff. I'm like, I can't believe. Sometimes I feel like we're still the people we were 6-7 years ago.
That's insane. There's people daily that are like, I want to quit my job and I just want to do cards. Not only did you guys rearrange your entire life and take a huge chance that, quite frankly, most people don't have the ovaries to do so. I was thinking that. I just want to make sure. I was like, man, I'm not going to sound like an ass on. Thank you. That's where I was going to go. Have the ovaries to do so, but not only you've built something where you're employing 23 other people who I'm sure are enjoying what they're doing, as opposed to some other job that they get to operate in a space that's a hobby. That is, like, to me, that's freaking incredible. That's not only when you handle yourself, that's one thing, but when you impact the lives of people around you for the better, that to me, like, that's what excites us. And I just think that's 24 people. That's pretty damn incredible.
It's a lot, and I think of them all as my kids. I mean, they all are definitely younger than me, but I'm always like, you know, I mean, I care about every single one of them. And I mean, when we didn't have that many at the beginning of COVID, but that was our first concern. You know, we didn't know what was going to happen. I was like, oh my God, what are we going to do with our employees? I don't want to lay anybody off if we have to. And luckily we didn't have to, and we hired more and grew. But, you know, I mean, you have to care about your employees, or you're not going to have success, you know? And I hope they all enjoy their job. I mean, if they don't enjoy their job, I hope that they leave. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but like, I feel like everybody should enjoy what they're doing. So if you really genuinely don't like the job, if you don't want to sort cards, you don't want to be on camera, then I hope that they find something else, and I wish them the best of luck. But we try very hard to make it a very, you know, a good place to work.
We want to be respectful of your time. It's late. You've had a busy day. I'm forever grateful for this opportunity, because, like I said, I had only ever heard you on one other podcast, and I thought your story was incredible. And then just having this conversation, like, cards be damned, like what you're doing to help empower, you know, specifically young ladies, and what you're doing, how you're having an impact on people's lives. I think that's pretty awesome. And for me, my hobby experience today was awesome as a result of knowing that there's people like you out there doing what you're doing. So thank you for everything that you do.
I appreciate it. So you guys will be at the National this year?
Yes. Okay, we're definitely.
So are you going to do your hobby night school at our booth?
If we're invited to, that would be awesome for sure.
You are invited to, because it's Wednesday night is the sneak peek, so it's open later, so you can do it.
All right. Yeah, definitely.
I'll reach out to you after this, and we'll get you on the schedule. We haven't actually published it all yet, but I want you guys there.
Yeah, so Sarah said tonight that we get her booth at the National, and the Mint is in Detroit in 23. This is what I heard.
I said they're going to have it. I didn't say
No, but we really wish you all the success. We'll get this up on YouTube within a day. It'll be on Spotify, Apple, because I know there's going to be a lot of people that are going to want to listen to this. But please continue to do what you're doing, and if we can ever be of any assistance whatsoever, we'd gladly do so. It would be an honor.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. You guys are great. I love what you guys are doing too, especially with the whole family feel. It's like my favorite thing.
Thank you. Yeah, the kids love it. It's fun. It's really nice to have something we can all do together that, like, you know, and everybody has, like, you can go to a card shop and find something for everyone. So it's nice. Right. Yeah.
All right. Well,
next time we're down by you, we're definitely going to make a trip out and see you guys. Yeah.
Definitely come in.
For sure. All right. Well, I want you to have a great night and get some rest, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for coming and joining us tonight.
Bye.
Bye.